Both presidential candidates returning to Michigan, though. A recent Fox News poll shows that Michigan is no longer leaning blue. It is back squarely in the toss-up category as the overall race is tightening. Detroit, heart of the auto industry in the United States, plus Middle East tensions are also a big topic since Michigan has the largest Arab American population in the United States. This week, former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama will join Harris on the campaign trail with stops in Georgia and Michigan. On a wider scale, these polls are showing that this race is proving to be nearly a dead heat. Although Trump has gained slightly in a new lead in the Fox News poll, we are also showing some movement here. This Fox News poll showing 48% right now nationally for Vice President Kamala Harris, 50% for former President Donald Trump in this new Fox poll. Now, we're going to look at some of the other things that have been going on with these polls. So close right now. Let's get a closer look at some of the nuances. What does all this mean inside the numbers? Aaron Zitner joins us once again. Pleasure to have you here, my friend. Aaron is a reporter and editor of the Wall Street Journal, a master of the polls. Do you mind if I call you that?
Oh, geez, that's,
okay, well, that's
quite an expectation you're setting, Tom.
You've been looking at these swing state polls, and, you know, I've been saying over and over again that, you know, these national polls that we look at, they're nice to look at, but they only go so far in telling us what actually might happen on Election Day. Swing states are really where this race is going to be decided, won or lost. So what have you found in the Wall Street Journal as far as where we're at right now with these 7 swing states?
Yeah, the Journal recently conducted a poll of the 7 swing states, and headline, Tom, it's close. I mean, it's so close that really polling is not it's too blunt an instrument to say who's leading, much less who's going to win in any of these states. You can see in our most recent poll, we have 2 states tied. We have Kamala Harris ahead in 2, Trump ahead in 1. And yet, all these leads are within the margin of error. The only one that's even close to coming outside the margin of error is Nevada.
All right, so let's dive into this. We're looking at, in this poll, who these folks are. How do they identify themselves? How do they see themselves as a voter, and what that might mean for who they actually vote for?
Right. This is something that we're seeing in a lot of polls. This happens to be Gallup data. In this forest of red and blue, look at the ones on the far right.
So 24 is here.
That's right.
Down by you is 92.
The thing to look at here, Tom, is in all of these bars, these are data going back more than 30 years. The only place where the red bar is higher than the blue bar is right now in 2024. And what that's telling us is this is the only time in more than 30 years that this close to an election, Gallup is finding more people calling themselves Republicans than Democrats. And we find that in Journal polls. NBC finds that in our polls. This is something new. There are more people who consider themselves Republicans than Democrats. That is foundational to the election.
And that's fascinating because you look at, you know, 2016, 12, going back all the way to year end, more people identifying themselves as Democrat until we get to now.
That's right.
Does this tell us anything, though, about whether or not these Republican-identified voters are going to pull a lever for Donald Trump?
Not necessarily. Look, if you're Donald Trump, you'd rather be there with more on your team than more on the other team, because in our polling, 94% of Democrats vote for Harris, 94% of Republicans vote for Trump. You want to have more of your team than the other team. Okay,
name of the game, and your voting has started in some places already, especially like in the Commonwealth of Virginia, where they're already underway. Consistent voters.
That's right.
Let's go to the next screen. This is a look at exactly, you know, who voted in the 4 most recent presidential. So walk us through this one.
If party identification, there are more Republicans than Democrats out there now, is an advantage for Trump, here's an advantage for Harris. This, we know when we talk to voters whether they voted before. And if you look at this, look at the top set and the bottom set. The top set of voters here are people who always vote. In the last 4 elections, they voted in all 4. And this tells us if the only people who vote this time are the people who always vote, consistent voters, Harris wins by 4 points. These are people who don't need to be motivated to vote. They don't need to hear from the campaigns. They vote out of habit. And in each set of bars below is more and more inconsistency in voting. This is half the electorate. This is the other half. This is the ball game for the election. These people are more Trumpy. The occasional voters, look, people who vote at half the time, Trump wins that group by 12 if they vote. Down here, people who are registered but don't vote, Trump wins them by 7. Getting these people out is what is going to make or break each candidacy, and Trump needs to get more out of this inconsistent group than Harris, because she's going to win the consistent voters.
And so when we watch these events that they've been having lately, it has been get out the vote events. How much do we know about whether or not, if somebody has voted in the previous election, is going to be a precursor or a predictor about them voting in this election?
If you voted in the last election, and well, let's put it this way, if you voted in prior elections, generally, you are highly likely to vote again now. If you voted, you know, 1 out of the last 4 opportunities, 2 out of the last 4 opportunities, what this is telling us, Tom, is the key to this election isn't the people who are deciding between Harris and Trump. They're important, but what's more important is the people who are deciding whether to vote at all, whether or not to cast a ballot. If everyone who is eligible to vote votes, you know, Trump's going to do very well because he's ahead in these inconsistent voters. The key choice now is whether or not to vote, and each team is trying to get its people out who, if they were to vote, they know what they would be with that team. But it's the decision to get off the couch and vote or not.
And
That's the
I find
decision.
what's fascinating about this, because, you know, past the national polls, which we have talked about, you know, a lot over the last year, this really kind of gives us a zeroed-in microscope approach to who was out there and who critically could make these decisions. Were there any surprises in any of this for you?
Well, what this does for me is it explains what we're seeing in the campaign. Donald Trump is out there. He's not even in the swing states a lot of the time. He's in New York. He's in Colorado. But he's talking very aggressive language about illegal immigration, the dangers of immigration. He's trying to find a message that will reach these people who don't tune into politics all that much.
Aaron Zitner from the Wall Street Journal, never disappointing, always fascinating. Thank you so much for bringing this
Good to be with
information.
you, Tom.